Imagine that you are standing in the same place, but there are hundreds of epochs in front of your eyes, millions of moments alternating like waves. And so Manhattan, this narrow piece of land only 21 kilometers long, suddenly turns into a time screen where layers of history flash and disappear. You blink and you see a new world. One more time and the world is already different. And the further you look, the less Manhattan resembles what it once was, and the more it can only become. The year 2000 is the city that never sleeps. Manhattan in the early 2000s is all about noise, energy, and density. Yellow taxis fill the avenues. Billboards put light on Times Square. Skyscrapers dully cast shadows on the streets where crowds of people are in a hurry, as if they are late for their own lives. From a bird's eye view, you can see the very staircase of skyscrapers, the Empire State, the Chrysler Building, the new buildings of the financial district. It would seem that the city is on top of the world, but no one understood then. This is just the beginning.
The year 2100 is the first stroke of water. By the end of the 21st century, New York is facing the threat that climate scientists have long been talking about. Manhattan begins to defend itself. Giant sea barriers grow around the perimeter of the island, transparent as the surface of ice. The streets in coastal areas are slightly elevated, and the lower floors of many buildings are converted into watertight levels. Autonomous inspection drones hover over the city, constantly scanning dams and water levels. Electric cars and public transport are completely replacing gasoline. This is still the old Manhattan, but with noticeable seams of the future. The year 2200 is a garden city between skyscrapers. The middle of the 22nd century brings an architectural revolution: green roofs, vertical gardens on every second building, hanging platforms with plants between high-rise buildings. Manhattan is beginning to recover from centuries of pollution, and the air is getting much cleaner. From a dense stone gorge, the island turns into a multi-level park where nature is woven into architecture. Even the old symbols, the Empire State and Rockefeller Center, acquire green terraces, as if regaining their connection with the earth.
The year 2300 is a multi-tiered metropolis. Now, the city is growing not only upward, but also inward. Additional street layers are appearing: pedestrian platforms above the roads, covered corridors between blocks, and new transport levels placed directly in the air. Autonomous capsule taxis travel on magnetic rails above the ground, allowing people to move quickly and contactlessly. Life no longer depends on traffic jams, subways, or timetables. The city is becoming fluid, flexible, and able to adjust its routes in real time. The year 2400, floating Manhattan. Some of the technology is being transferred to the water. Large energy platforms on the Hudson River are powered by solar and thermal energy, and the first residential floating modules are appearing on the eastern side of the island. They are fixed on dynamic anchors that allow them to rise and fall with the ocean level. Manhattan is learning to interact with water, not fight it. The coastline is becoming vibrant, mobile, and adaptive.
2500, a city without cars. Public transport goes completely vertical. Capsules, elevators, elevator on the street, elevator to the sky. A person can transfer from one to another without ending up on the ground. The street level is being released. Shopping areas, gardens, and places for walking appear in place of roads. This is no longer a repository of offices and glass towers. Manhattan is turning into a giant, orderly organism. Year 2600, expansion into the river. The city becomes an island network. New arms are forming along Manhattan, floating neighborhoods connected by flexible bridges.
They are resistant to storms, floods, and sea level changes. These areas are growing like coral reefs around the old core. Manhattan is no longer limited by geography. It ceases to be an island in the usual sense.
2700, the first climatic domes. Man is finally taking control of the microclimate. Translucent domes appear above the most vulnerable areas, which regulate humidity, temperature, and lighting. From the outside, they look like giant glass hills. Inside, they have a comfortable climate all year round. Manhattan is no longer dependent on the weather. It becomes a place where the weather is part of the architecture. The year 3000. Vertical giants. A turning point. Ordinary skyscrapers are finally becoming a thing of the past. They are being replaced by megastructures, buildings that look more like vertical cities, with their own forests, rivers, residential areas, work areas, and transport networks. They are interconnected by magnetic bridges. You can enter a building in the south and exit in the north without ever going down to street level.
3300, the city of light and biotechnology. Manhattan becomes a radiant organism. Bioluminescent plants on the facades, gene modifications of trees that glow in the dark, soft illumination of streets without lamps. All this forms a new night appearance of the city. It's not neon, it's not electricity. This is a living architecture. The year 3600, cities at altitude, cities below altitude. The technology of anti-gravity supports is emerging. Small playgrounds, residential complexes, and transportation centers hover above the ground without mechanical structures. They move slowly, but they are always stable. Manhattan becomes four-layered: underground level, street level, the level of megastructures, and floating level. The city is turning into a vertical space.
The year 4000. Architecture that breathes. Buildings made of self-renewing materials can change shape depending on wind, temperature, pressure, and sunlight. Facades shrink, expand, open, and transform. Manhattan becomes like a living organism that reacts to all changes in the external environment. 4500. Soaring sectors. Now, entire areas are hanging over the island. Huge platforms, like clouds of metal and glass, create new levels of life. They are connected to the Earth and megastructures by a network of gravitational passages through which a person moves effortlessly. From a height, Manhattan appears to be a three-dimensional maze of light and structure.
4800, full autonomy. Artificial intelligence controls the climate, traffic, protective systems, and power grids. Everything works silently, unnoticeably. Buildings communicate with each other. Transport communicates with people. The city communicates with nature. Manhattan has survived all the crises that were in store for it, and now he is completely self-sufficient. The year 5100 is Manhattan, which is impossible to imagine. Before my eyes is not a megacity, but a cultural organism that has grown over time. On the island where the first skyscrapers once stood, now there are majestic skyplates, green towers, floating bridges, designer climate domes, living facades, biolights, and air transport corridors. Manhattan is no longer a city. Manhattan is a civilization concentrated in one point. And if you look back at the path from the year 2000 to 5100, it becomes clear. Evolution is not just a change in architecture. This is a change in the very meaning of the city, changing what people consider home, and changing who they become. Manhattan is just an example. but it shows what any city of the future can become.